because we really do enjoy being here. We have some great people that work for us. We have some great people in this community. We have some loyal customers, and we love it. We really, because I've owned a bar before, and this is way different than owning a bar.
Welcome to TapThatAZ, the show where you get to meet the awesome people behind the best craft beverages across the state of Arizona. I'm your host, Eric Walters. In this episode, I sit down with Jacob and Laura Hansen, owners of Saddle Mountain Brewing Company in Goodyear. We talk about the challenges they had of being the first brewery in Goodyear and the awesome city council member who helped them make their dream happen. They even named a beer after him. So grab a drink. Let's tap into Saddle Mountain Brewing Company. So I'm with Laura and Jacob from Saddle Mountain Brewing Company. They gave me a pretty awesome koozie. It actually says awesome on it. Guys, thanks for joining me. This is really great. This is awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
no
excited.
problem. Thanks for having us
here. Yeah, so you guys have been pretty successful in business before this, right? I think I read an article where you guys owned a whole town pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. Back a while ago, but yeah, we did. We own the commercial aspects, or most of the commercial aspects of the town of Wintersburg. My parents helped with that. It's not like it was a sole endeavor. It was more of a family endeavor, which Wintersburg is right out there by Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station. So
gotcha. Okay.
There was a little general store and an RV park. And then when my parents bought those portions of it, I was a school teacher. Jacob was working for Pierce Aviation. And I decided to stop what I was doing and help my parents with that. And in doing so, we grew the businesses to own a used car dealership, a beauty salon, and then a bar and grill that existed as a bar but burnt down. And so we purchased it at that point and redid it.
Okay.
So it still exists now. It's Tin Top Bar and Grill out there in the middle of nowhere. And but we sold all of those aspects in 2006.
Okay. And so how did you decide so you own a bar and restaurant. How did you decide, hey, let's make beer?
Right. Well, Jacob was not into craft beer at the time, but 18, 19 years ago, on a fluke, did my parents buy you a Mr. Beer for a gift-giving day?
Yeah, it was like either a birthday or a Father's Day thing, and they bought one of those simple little Mr. Beer kits, and that was the first. And it turned out terrible, but it was a lot of fun. The
but
process.
You like doing it.
You kind of get into the science of it and the process, and from there on out, I just started doing a lot more home brewing, partial mash home brewing.
Well, I went
like
up
that,
to
kegging.
I found that they had What Ails Ya up on Bell Road.
Okay,
Chuck, that owns it, great guy.
Yeah.
So I think it was Father's Day, maybe the next year. I went up there and said, my husband really liked this Mr. Beer kit, and he doesn't understand, the recipe involved. Now, what do you have that's better than a Mr. Beer, but not quite? I totally know what I'm doing. And so he sold me, I think, an amber or a red or something like that. And I took that home and gave it to him as a gift, and bought the bottles and bought the, all that stuff that goes with it. And so he did that for a little while, and then a gift. Yeah, 3 years later, I think I bought him corny kegs. Like the little kegs that you got from Soda Pop.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Those,
they're cylindrical, they...
Oh, yeah, right over there.
Yeah, those. Yep. I bought him those because his beer kept blowing up in our closet. And I'm like, okay, that's no fun. And it just got a lot easier to not bottle it.
And it's... Chuck, over the years, I learned all of what I knew about homebrewing from Chuck and from a couple of books. But Chuck was really good on my education. He always had great advice, and he was always happy to give you his advice. So,
yeah.
He was really instrumental in a lot of the brewing I did at home and a lot of the success of home brewing.
This is the What Ails Ya
the owner of What Ails Ya.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he's and to this day he is so happy for us. He actually he has a business up on Bell Road, but he lives in Litchfield area, so we get to see him every once in a while, and he's a good guy. He really is. So, yeah. But then that was kind of Jacob's beginning of the love of home brewing, right? And so he'd been homebrewing this whole time, and he would, come up with new recipes, and he finally got confident enough to go out on his own and just buy the ingredients and not have somebody else determine what they were going to be.
Like a prepackaged.
Exactly,
kind of thing.
So, and my house stunk. Like in the beginning, I did not like the way it smelled in the house. Yeah. Now it smells like, glorious revenue. So I'm like, yay. But he got better and better and better. And then in 2006, when we sold the little town, we carried the note. So they were making payments to us. But in 2011, they paid us off.
Oh,
so
okay.
we had this, what are we going to do with this money? Where are we going to invest it? How are we going to, make something of it and not just piddle it away on stuff?
Yeah.
And so, one day we were coming home from Branson, Missouri. We were on a big family vacation, and we were discussing, well, do we want to buy and sell houses? The market had kind of crashed in 06, 07,
Right.
what do we want to do with this money? And without thinking, I said, well, you like brewing beer, we could always open a brewery. And I literally said it like that. I was not genuine. I just kind of went across my mind.
Yeah.
And something stuck in his brain, and he did not let it go. And I mean, he did not let it go. And, here we were just thinking, I'd been retired for 6 years now or something, and 6 years now. And I didn't want to do another business at that time, but he really, he
planted that seed.
Well, and what was so nice is when we had sold that town, my parents, who were in their 70s, had a very nice retirement. And that stuck in his brain too. It's like, what can we do to better our retirement and maybe even have a legacy for our children? And, because at the time the economy had taken a crash and everybody's investments looked like hell and, stuff like that. So,
well, and part of it was also at the time that I had a federal government job I was very thankful to have the job.
Yeah.
But it was not something that I just saw myself retiring from.
Okay.
So I was also looking for, okay, what's another step? What's something new that we could do to maybe it'll, something fun to do, maybe some good income from it, and possibly, growth potential enough to get us to be independent from, having the outside job with the federal government.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I had a little extra motivation in that sense.
Right.
And I still didn't want to do it.
I still do.
He had to convince me, and it took a while. And we just had our son, our youngest, who's now 6.
Okay.
And I'm like, I just got to be a stay-at-home mom. I owned that other town when the other two were little, So now I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I told him, I said, when Grayson is 5, I'll consider it. Well, we opened this when Grayson was not quite 3, right?
He was 4
Yeah.
and a half. Yeah.
Was he 4? Is it that old, really? Huh. I feel really old, but so he kept looking and bought some equipment for the house to better batch some beers and kind of finite some recipes. And I guess at one point in time he wanted to go look at buildings, and so we did. And I said, I'll indulge you. Let's go look at buildings. And then he found this building. And it was for sale, not for lease. And we'd seen so many others for lease and maybe ones that were better to move in. But to make a brewery, you're going to have to retrofit something anyhow. It's not like there's just, here's this old brewery for sale. Right. You want to buy that and just it's turnkey. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So, and the fact that this one was for sale was appealing to me because owning the whole town and the businesses, I knew that was a beneficial concept to own what you work at instead of just leasing what you work at, because you can sell a business, but the reality is people want the whole lock, stock, and barrel. They want to buy the whole thing. So so it was appealing to buy a building versus leasing a building. And so all the places we looked at was just incredibly expensive. I was shocked for the square footage to do something you want to do, what their numbers were. Yeah, it was crazy. So after we saw this building, Jacob went to the city of Goodyear just to ask, what are your policies on microbreweries? Yeah. And lo and behold, he found out they didn't have very many. Yeah. I mean, they were very restrictive. Microbreweries were okay. Nanobreweries were okay.
Nano? So nano is much smaller?
Much smaller.
What they had is they had one definition in their planning and zoning definitions. And basically what it was a 2 or 3 line definition that stated that a brewery can only take up 25% of the total square footage leased or occupied by the brewery. And then there was no outside sales allowed. And so, so if you think about that legally, you can't do growler sales, you can't do keg sales.
Oh, yeah.
And
you can't have your beers on tap other places.
No,
things like
you
that.
couldn't do anything.
Correct. So my response to that was, well, guy's name was Steve. And I said, Steve, we got to fix that. And Steve's surprising and very welcoming response was, well, what do you think we ought to put in there?
Yeah, he was the head of planning and zoning for the city of Goodyear.
Oh, okay. So he was down. He was just like,
yeah, and they were, you know, Goodyear was wanting to bring in more businesses. They were wanting to make it, you know, more business friendly. And so I wrote a set of recommendations basically based off the state guidelines for the state liquor laws for distances, things like that. They went through it with their legal department and kind of came up with the final. Because what they were wanting to do is they were wanting to protect their commercial areas. They were wanting to protect their residential areas, protect their commercial areas. They've got different layers of commercial zoning. One is industrial, one is more, you know,
light
like the storefront, what you see.
Storefront, yeah.
So they were wanting to make sure that their light commercial wasn't turning into factories, things like that. So they wrote a real good set of guidelines as far as there's still a size and scope to this building, and the size and scope is plenty for the size of building we have. So it's not really restrictive anymore.
Yeah. Gotcha. So there's still limitations. But,
right.
Yeah.
But Jacob worked with Steve and their lawyers for almost 9 months. And the whole time he's working with him to make it so we can possibly get this building is on hold. We've put our, put our down on it, and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting.
Not even knowing if it's going to be approved.
Right.
You're just fingers crossed.
We're fingers crossed that it's good, right? And so I think the last day of the week before they were sending it off to Mayor Lord and the city council, Steve calls Jacob and I in and says, come and look at what the lawyers wrote and make sure it's what you guys are wanting, but what would be beneficial for Goodyear, and make sure it's in line with the state standards and stuff like that. Because again, City of Goodyear had not dealt with a brewery. Yeah. And so, so we go in over there, and as we start through the verbiage, we keep noticing this 500-foot rule that has to do with the sale of alcohol and live music. They linked them together. So the sale of alcohol and live music were not allowed within 500 feet of churches, schools, and in Goodyear, residential areas. Well, we are 378 feet off the corner of this residential area. So after 9 months of going through all of this, we're worried about the brewing and the amount we're allowed to sell and where we can sell it and how to. Never once did it dawn on me to look at live music or even anything beyond 300 feet because, and never against residential areas, And so when we're just looking at this, we just were deflated because we're like, Steve, we're 378 feet off this. If you go on Google Earth and do the little line, it tells you how many feet it is, from the corner of our building to the side of that residential plot. And so, honestly, it was in that meeting that he took his red pen and scratched out the word 500 and wrote 300, a little 300 on top of all of them. And Jacob and I were like, well, that's nice of you. But again, it's just Steve doing that. Right. It's not the powers that be. So we're like, okay, well, we'll see. And so Jacob and I walked out and we're shaking our heads and we're like, they're never going to pass that. They're going to change this specific guideline for us or for breweries, microbreweries, and industrial areas, or because that was all the verbiage in there. And we just didn't think it was going to happen, and we were going to have to come back and tell the bank wait longer because now we've got to get a variance, and if the variance passes, it's still a crapshoot and stuff. And so we went to the town council meeting where we were there, and they asked Jacob to stand up and all this kind of stuff.
No, I had actually prepared a presentation for him, and it was actually planning and zoning first, and then the city council.
Right, that's true. And so, but they pointed him out, and they, were all of them, Mayor Lord and everybody, seemed excited. And there were several people on the town council that were just really excited to see this kind of growth in the neighborhood. And lo and behold, they passed it with the 300-foot. So, if you're wondering why this one is called 300-foot Steve, it is in appreciation of that concept. Because how often do you get
I'm gonna try that one
a city employee, right, in honor of Steve, a city employee to be so good to work with, and that's when we first brewed that, it was a free, we considered it a freestyle. It didn't fit any of the guidelines, but since then, 2 years ago?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, GABF changed some of their guidelines, and that actually fits as an imperial red.
It's an imperial red. But when we brewed it, it didn't fit anything, and we thought that was so appropriate to give kind of the rule-breaking beer to the rule-bending city council or city employee,
awesome.
So we, and truth be it, we wouldn't be here otherwise. otherwise. I mean, and maybe we'd be here because of a variance that we'd have to apply for every year.
Yeah.
Who wants to do that, you know? So, no, we're very appreciative to Steve. He comes in, he's so funny. He's not even a craft beer guy, but he's been starting. He's really trying to. And then to make the strongest, hoppiest, boldest beer we make after him, and for him to be a non-craft beer guy, he was like, oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah. He was lying. He didn't think it was good.
But
now he's right. But now he's, you know, I see him every once in a while out and about and stuff. And him and his wife and child come in here and they partake and we appreciate them. So
yeah, that's
he's
awesome.
trying. He's really trying.
Yeah, it's great. I think that there should be a rule that every community has to have a craft beer place within 300 feet. Right?
There you go.
There you go.
Separating. Yeah. But well, that's so okay. So things started moving, started opening up. So how did you decide? Because this place is beautiful, like the design inside. I love the theme. So how did you guys come up with the name, number one, and the theme?
Do you want to take this? I would not name it that concept.
So the name Saddle Mountain Brewing Company wasn't actually the first choice we had, but
wasn't the 25th choice
it was a time that there was a lot of breweries coming up across the country. So we did a nationwide search for it because you want the potential to be able to grow nationwide. I don't know that we'll ever get there, but we don't want to start out on strike two on trying to do something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, every name that we liked, we searched. Somebody's got a brewery named after it. Yeah. We finally found Saddle Mountain is a mountain out toward Harquahala, about 35 miles west here. And we both grew out that way.
One of our first dates was in an airplane over that, in a tail dragger.
I took her flying out toward Saddle Mountain, that's right. Nice. So Saddle Mountain Brewing Company is something that was not nationally used, so we decided to grab that as the name. The name Tail Dragger is the namesake for the beer, and Tail Draggers are trademarked. We have the trademark on that, and that would be the more popular name that you would see on shelves if we, you know, are blessed enough to get to that point.
And had we started, we didn't think of the name Tail Dragger until a couple years into the research and development and the starting of the corporation Saddle Mountain Brewing Company, right? Yeah. Well, if I could do it all again, would I do it a little differently? Maybe. You know, and we definitely want Tail Dragger to be the name people recognize.
Okay.
Much like maybe Samuel Adams is recognized and people don't necessarily know it's Boston Brewing Company that does it. Their names don't go together.
I didn't realize that either.
Okay. So, you know, if we had to pick one that we could mimic that concept after the fact that we're trying to make you believe, you know, it would be that kind of concept, because maybe we should have been Tail Dragger Ale Works or Tail Dragger Brewing Company, but we'd already started and had been in it 2 years and had all the legal stuff done. And it's like, what do you do? You know, so we're just going with it.
It's cool though. Yeah. I like it. It's different. I don't think anyone else is really doing that. Like, it's like Mother Road Brewing Company. Beer, right? Mother Road Brewing Company. I like that this is like your craft beer line.
Yeah. So, and hopefully people will start to understand, and you know, it's aviation themed kind of stuff, and there's a reason for that. You know, Jacob's a pilot, and we wanted to give back to the military, and what a better look than Rosie the Riveter and vintage World War II airplanes and these beasts of bombers and steermen and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that just speaks to us personally. So if you look out in my brewery, it's like an old vintage, I don't know, place where you know the pipes are going through the walls and maybe.
Well, and to back up for anybody that's listening that may not know what tail dragger means, tail dragger refers to the airplanes, vintage airplanes, older airplanes that have a tail wheel on the back of the airplane.
Oh, the ones that kind of sit.
Yes.
Like, right, main gear in the front and then a tail wheel on the back. Those are, you know, more affectionately known as tail draggers.
Okay.
And the name is really, it's a tribute to the history of American aviation.
Okay.
And because there's just been so many great milestones in aviation in the United States of America, and just some of the most iconic, you know, visuals for aircraft is those old tail dragger airplanes.
Yeah.
World War I, World War II trainers. Yeah. And you'll see on the walls in there's some World War II trainers on the walls. Just, they're beautiful airplanes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you think of the biplane like that. What is the Red Baron or something, right?
That is the Stearman.
That's a Stearman.
The Stearman. Okay.
That's the airplane he's trying to convince me to let him buy.
You don't hear that very much. I just want to buy that airplane, please. Yeah.
Well, when I met him,
we have a big mural of one in there on the wall.
which actually is housed in Phoenix, right? That one's housed.
Yeah, it's owned by the Commemorative Air Force over in the Mesa wing. It's the Arizona wing in Mesa at Falcon Field.
Yeah.
Which a plug for them. If you haven't had a chance to get over there and see their museum, do that today because it is really nice.
Falcon Field?
Yeah, at Falcon Field Airport. It's the Commemorative Air Force Museum at Falcon Field Airport.
Oh, gotcha.
They have some beautiful aircraft out there. Nice. Beautiful aircraft.
One of which is the one that's hanging on the wall out here.
Oh, gotcha.
And one of the main pilots there at the Commemorative Air Force, Billy Walker, he's been out here, loves the place, wishes we were closer to that side of town.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned like military connection. You guys give back a lot. You do a lot of charity things. And
we do. Mostly, most of our charities are focused around military, first responders. We do a lot with Luke Air Force Base. We're Fighter Country Partnership. We're members of that. We donate to them, which they're kind of the umbrella charity for Luke itself. Okay. So if a member of Luke needs something, this is the charity that helps them out. It produces all of their events and helps the individuals, whether it be a homecoming, a funeral, all of that kind of stuff. Fighter Country Partnership does that for Luke Air Force Base, so we try to do what we can for them. And actually, a portion of the Show Your Stripes that we have that you do not have in your little samples here, but we do the honey ale. Yeah. Show Your Stripes, get that? Yeah, yeah. A portion of the proceeds to that we donate over to Fighter Country Partnership when we can. We wait till we get a good enough chunk, and then we send it over there to them. In addition, we ran buy a military person a beer. We did that for Arizona Beer Week. Vastly successful, and so we're taking those proceeds from that sale because everybody came in. If they were 21 and older, they could purchase a beer for somebody else that was in the military. Yeah. Any military can come in and get it.
Purchase a beer, and then
so then we had them pinned up all over the brewery. And when a military soul, past or present, came in, they could have a beer on somebody else. They pull it down, give them the beer. Make sure they're 21 and older, of course. Right, yeah. But and that was hugely successful. So we got enough proceeds from that entire endeavor to send a World War II veteran with Arizona honor flights back to Washington to see the memorial, and we're losing World War II veterans at what, 1,200 a day
about
or something?
1,200 a day, yeah.
Because they're just they're aging. They're they're in their 90s in some cases. I don't really know what happened to the gentleman, but we have a World War II vet that lives nearby, and when his grandson comes to town, he brings him here. Okay. Just an awesome guy, But I think he was 102 when he came in here last.
Wow.
So, so we are.
Drinks beer, keeps him young.
He does. Oh, yeah, and he drinks all he wants from us. Glad to compliment that over to him. So that's what we try to do. We do local Goodyear stuff too. We try to do different charities that people come in if they're local, if they're in Goodyear, we want to support local and that kind of stuff. So, but most of it goes over to Luke Air Force Base and first responders. If somebody comes in needing a donation because, fireman has passed away, and of course we're going to do all of that, that kind of stuff. So
that's awesome. That is, and that shows that's the craft beer community,
It really is.
And I think that maybe for you guys to be able to get that passed with the city, they see it's not, you're not doing tequila shots and getting crazy over here. It's a great place to come. You treat people well, so that's awesome.
Hopefully they feel that, because we really do enjoy being here. We have some great people that work for us. We have some great people in this community. We have some loyal customers, and we love it. We really, because I've owned a bar before, and this is way different than owning a bar.
Yeah. So the beer. So you guys make beer. That's kind of what you do, right? Yep. So I know you've homebrewed for almost 20 years. So what's your approach, and how do you guys approach the beer making?
My approach is fairly limited because my taste in beers. Whenever you homebrew, you tend to brew something that you like.
Yeah.
When you get outside that box, you're starting to experiment with stuff that you may learn that you like. But you have to be careful on, did I make this correctly, and is this the way it's supposed to taste?
Oh, gotcha.
Because if it is the way it's supposed to taste, then either I really like it or I'm not going to brew that again.
Right.
Whenever you come into the brewery, at the brewery level here, though, you may be making a lot of beers that other people are going to like, that other people are going to be purchasing. So it's not necessarily just up to my tastes. I'll give you one of the big for instances was the oatmeal stout when I first did it. I love oatmeal stouts, but it's not something I normally order.
Okay.
So it's, I had to really rely on the community and the stout lovers to tell me. And they did. It's like, hey, this is a little weak, and we upped a lot of the roasted barley to really dial it in so that the stout drinkers would really enjoy it. It's not necessarily just about what I like. It's about what the patrons like and what they want too. So we've got what you've got is you've got 6 of them sitting in front of you here. If you want to talk about them,
yeah. Cream ale was the one.
Yeah, the cream ale is Warhawk is the first one you have, and that's one that's completely Neil Huttenhow is our brewer, and that was his recipe, and it's to be honest with you, it's the first cream ale that I ever liked. Every time I had a cream ale, it had a pretty heavy flavor of DMS in it, dimethyl sulfide.
Okay.
And it's kind of a vegetal. This tastes so clean. It is real. And I'm going to be honest, I was very skeptical when he said he wanted to do a cream ale because I knew what I thought of them.
Right.
Again, it's not about what I want to drink. It's and he had proven himself as a great brewer already. It's like, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. It's an incredible beer, and I'll take kegs of it home from my kegerator as well. It's a very good beer.
It's a really good summer beer. Speaking of, starting to, it's the kind that you can drink while mowing the lawn.
It's so good. Yeah. It's really good. Yeah, because I've had cream ales before where it's too creamy, like maybe too vanilla or something.
And the cream ale, the name is a little bit of a misnomer. Cream ale being that it's a mouthfeel of kind of a creamy mouthfeel.
Okay.
If I were to call it a golden ale, I think probably even more people would order it. And it's one of the highest sellers that we have anyway. Okay. It's a light golden style ale.
It's easy drinking.
And that's what's showing the limits of my education is. Yeah. I don't get the cream ale name in it.
Yeah.
Your beer nuts would be able to tell you that a lot better than I can. Chasing Tail is the next one you had, the amber ale. Now that's one of my recipes that I've been doing for a really long time.
Okay. And it is our number one seller. It's definitely it's our number one seller over the bar.
Okay.
All the time. So that's one of our flagships. We're throwing that out to the general public to be able to sell at restaurants and bars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it is just an awesome amber beer.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything. I've had 4 of the 6 already, and every one of them is fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm about to hit the 300-foot Steve.
300-foot Steve, yeah. That's a pretty bold one.
So the third one, Raised Gold, that one the name originated actually from Laura's dad, Ray. Ray has had for a long time a big interest in gold in Arizona.
Treasure hunting,
and not necessarily, not just mining, but buried treasure hunting and
like
things like
Superstition
that.
Mountain type of thing.
Yeah.
Kinda.
So, and just to kind of help him try to find his gold, the Raised Gold, one of the hops in it is Nugget hops.
Okay.
So with the Nugget hops, we came up with the name Raised Gold, just to kind of little tribute to Ray on that. Yeah. Give him a little bit of his.
And my dad, I think, is a Miller Genuine Draft drinker.
Okay.
In nature, I mean, I think he was a Pabst Blue Ribbon guy back when I was like 12, but
right.
But he's always drink pretty light beers, Bud Light and Coors Light or whatever.
Yeah.
Now all he drinks is Raised Gold. He is an IPA guy. If we go out to restaurants, he has converted to an IPA guy, but only on draft. Like he still, I think, buys. Like if I bottled it for him or canned it for him, he'd probably have it at home.
Yeah.
But I think he still buys Miller, kind of deal. So, but when he comes here, it's all he drinks, and my staff love them, and they know exactly. My mom has a Warhawk, and my dad has a Raised Gold.
So they see him pulling up out there.
They have them poured and ready to go. Yeah, absolutely.
So the Hop Snob, this is a new thing. Well, not a new thing, but it's the West Coast IPAs are kind of.
Right. So now here's another limit on my and I love Hop Snob.
Okay.
But my limit on hoppy beers is I absolutely love them. I have a very big appreciation for them. I can only get about a half of one drank before I've kind of had I start kind of getting dry mouth stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I like I said, I love IPAs, but the Hop Snob it's hard to say because it's such a good beer. It's just got this really nice pop of hops in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one that was kind of a conglomerate recipe put together by me and Jim Edgens and Neil. Whenever you start a brewery, you don't necessarily have all the hops available to you that you did as a home brewer.
Okay.
And 1 ounces at a time when I went to Chuck's, what else you buy them.
Yeah, right.
Whenever you get into
buy them in big quantities.
Right. Yeah, you buy them in big quantities, and they're not necessarily available if you don't have contracts on them.
Oh, gotcha.
So some of the original recipes I had went through some changes because of hops we had available to us.
Okay.
Now, Hop Snob was one that was put together. It's mainly put together by Jim Edgens with, hey, Jim, here's what we got.
Yeah.
I want to do a West Coast IPA. If we need another hops, that's fine. But what can we do here? And so there's 5 different hops in it. And one of the main reasons it's got so many hops is because if there were to be a shortage of any one of those, you could probably bump up one of the other hops and not necessarily have a change in the flavor.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It has some great hops in it, but it doesn't have anything that is a signature hop.
Okay.
There's a few signature hops out there: Mosaic, Citra, what is it, Nelson Sauvin. But there's a few that are like, that's the hops you have. Simcoe, that's one that everybody knows when it's Simcoe.
Gotcha.
But if you happen to find yourself not being able to get those, it's going to very heavily change. It's going to change your beer. It's going to make it a different beer.
You won't be able to make that beer, really, right?
Right. I mean, so with Hop Snob, it's got a lot of hops in it. It's got several varieties of hops. So if anything like that were to happen, we could change up one of those hops, and only the
I know
someone who really knows
what's that word? The
connoisseur would really know if you changed.
Yeah, but for the most part, it would be a very small change.
Gotcha.
And going back to, I think what we were talking about when we were not on air was we really do try to offer a variety of beers. I mean, we do brew 12 here, of which 7 or 8 of them are consistently on tap here. And Hop Snob is one of those that is consistently on tap. A lot of people would like us to sell it outside the restaurant, but the truth is, it's hard for us to get all those hops. We didn't have contracts in the beginning, and I think we do have 2018 contracts out, but we could only get so much. So we can't produce that yet in such large quantities that we can afford to not sell it over the bar here. I don't want to run out here to sell it out. And a lot of people don't understand when you're doing a production of a beer, but you're a brew pub facility, we have to pick and choose, what is readily available to us. Right. Granted, all of the ingredients for our amber, for Chasing Tail, are pretty easy to come by. So it happens to be one of the best-selling beer we have here over the bar.
Yeah.
So that's the one we push out to market because we can make it.
Right.
That doesn't mean we'll never sell Hop Snob out, but it doesn't mean we're going to do it anytime soon.
Yeah.
It is a really popular beer here. That's when I was talking to you about, our top beer and the next 3 always fight for kind of the second and third placing. Hop Snob, Warhawk, 5G, those are the ones that kind of always are fighting for top billing there. So
and now Hop Snob is one. It's the West Coast IPA. It was named after a friend of ours who started out.
She's a total hop snob.
Like most craft beer people start out on the very lightest of craft beers, and
very malty.
Will never have a hop until you have that one that's just the right amount of hops that you like it and it intrigues you. And she literally turned into it's not hoppy enough, not hoppy enough. She turned
over
into
about
a
6 years. She went from I like ambers, malty, I like Scottish ales, ESBs, all that kind of stuff, into just don't even show me that. I just want hoppy stuff.
Wow.
She's great, and she loves. And so when we did that, when they were talking about doing a West Coast, I said, well, make it good, and Deanne likes it. We'll just name it Hop Snob after her because we just would call her a big old hop snob because she wouldn't drink other things.
Right. Yeah.
So
how did
she approved? Yeah, she approved.
Okay.
That's the one she drinks when she comes in. Now she also likes. We have a rotational called Problem Child. It's a double IP. She also likes that one.
Nice.
But Hop Snob is her go-to beer when she comes here. So
these are all fantastic. Everything's like really clean, just like to the point. But they're fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Are solid beers. So this last one, so we already talked about the 300-foot Steve.
Right.
That's awesome. I love reds. And you don't see reds enough, I don't think.
Yeah, and this one is if it's balanced, but it's balanced real high. It's got a lot of malt.
Are you talking about 300-foot Steve?
Yeah, a lot of malt flavor, a lot of hop character.
We actually have a red here too, not just an imperial
It's
red. We have
a
a red.
what is it? 70 IBU.
90.
90.
It's a very hoppy beer, but it's got a lot of malt backing too. You can get kind of some of that almost that raisiny prune flavor in there on the malt side of it.
Okay.
As far as real high caramel, and that's balanced out by that real high hops. We won a gold medal year before last at the Arizona Strong Beer Festival with it.
For the 300-foot Steve?
Yeah.
Correct.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this last one, 643. This is I should have waited to have them so I could give my,
That's
but
okay.
I'm just drinking them.
That's
They're so
all right.
good. So the 643, the last one, I haven't tasted it
that
yet.
one we're
so.
almost out of.
Okay.
Last year we decided with the city of Goodyear and the Goodyear Ballpark to produce a beer for them. They wanted it, and since it's the Cincinnati Reds and the
Is it the Cleveland Indians?
Cleveland Indians. I was trying to think of the name Cleveland. Sorry. And they are big. They like hoppy beers. So we talked to the guy that was buying for the ballpark that year, and we decided to make a session IPA. It's going to be hot out there. They're going to be in the sun. Let's not make it too terribly high alcohol, but let's give them a nice hoppy beer.
Yeah.
And so we did, and they ran a campaign where they had their customers name it. So we did not name 643.
Okay.
Apparently 643 is a play.
Yep.
You know, some sort of like somebody's on first, somebody's on second, whatever. I don't know baseball like that.
Yeah, I don't know
but they
what that
named
is
it
too.
right.
Yeah.
But it's some sort of play.
Yeah.
And so they named it 643, and we produced it 2016, and then we produced it again in 2017 for them.
Okay.
And so that is where that comes from. And those are our last little kegs of it before it runs out. And then we'll produce it again for them next year. It seems to go over really well.
Yeah, it's good. And so it's a session, right?
It's a session.
Yeah.
It's probably a higher alcohol session than
It's
it
a
should be,
great
but
fruit session IPA.
it's
a
a great.
what?
Oh, it's made with Arizona grapefruits too.
Oh,
We have
really?
local
Okay.
people that bring us their grapefruits, and so the rind and some of the juices, but mostly the rinds are used to produce that. So it's a great.
It's good
fruit.
balance. It's
Yeah.
not overwhelming.
No,
grapefruit.
it's
I
not.
wouldn't like after you told me and I taste it and I'm paying more attention.
Right.
You can get it.
But some of that bitterness that's in there is really the grapefruit, not the hops.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, all beers are fantastic. I'm gonna have lunch here too, so I'm gonna try. I might have to try just the regular red.
Oh, there
guys
you
have
go.
too,
There
yes.
you go. Well, we make everything in house here.
Yeah.
Everything is not. Definitely, we don't bring it in, heat it up, and serve it to you. We make it here. We brine our own pastrami and corned beef for about 21 days, and we smoke off the pastrami and we roast off the corned beef, and every sauce and whatever is all made in house here.
Yeah.
So I have a great kitchen staff that does a good job for me.
Nice. So what are some of the signatures that you when you do? The
Well,
pastrami
definitely
and
the corned beef and the pastrami
Yeah.
are on the high selling list.
And,
we have
just
some,
to be clear on that, that is not something we bring in brined. It is
we
brine it
it.
here.
Yeah, we pickle it here.
Yeah, absolutely. From straight brisket, straight out of the package to into the brine, and it cures for 21 to 30 days, and then like she said, smoke off for the pastrami, and then
Which is it's a smoked on a pecan chip, and so it's got a really lovely mild smoke taste to it.
Yeah.
We find it very delicious. So.
And you have a smoker here.
We do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. This place just keeps getting better and better.
Right? Yeah, we do a lot of great
I want everybody to know
burgers.
I went through a lot of briskets figuring out that recipe.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
You
hard
know,
work,
we're
right?
definitely
That's right.
We're definitely a gastropub. We keep our core menu the same all the time.
Okay.
And then we have a fresh sheet, so we bring out. So, because we have so many awesome customers that come here 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
Well, I've been here 3 years and I need new stuff too.
Yeah.
The same menu, it's great, but you need to have a variety and new things that come out so you enjoy, oh wow, something different we haven't had here. So
Right.
we do have a fresh sheet that comes out about quarterly,
Okay.
so they can change up things and enjoy new things. And
It's
so
basically along the same lines of the beer. We've got a lot of signature beers, and then we've got some that we trade up. Same thing with the menu. We've got a lot of signature dishes, and then we've got some things that we trade up to keep things fresh.
yeah,
Yeah.
Neil's got a smash Pilsner, a single malt, single hop Pilsner coming out. We have a Hefeweizen coming out. This is, I think, our first Hef, right? We haven't had a Hef
Really?
before.
Wow, nice.
He's done an English. He's done an ESB. Has he done it? No, you did an ESB
We did the ESB whenever we were doing the homebrew
class.
class.
That's right.
We did.
Which we'd like to
One
do
of the
more
last
those.
ones that Neil's getting a lot of great feedback on is the
The
Scottish ale.
Okay. Yeah.
We have some people who are angry it's not on.
Oh,
He
really?
did a great job. No, it was a really lovely Scottish ale, and I think it was probably one of the favorites that came through. That was a session for sure.
So, and that's awesome for the staff too, like your kitchen staff, to be able to mix it up a little bit. I'm sure
They
that
enjoy it. They
like-
get bored
Yeah.
doing the same burger and the same. I mean, it's great food, but after a while, you're like, all right, how many of these one salads can I make?
Right.
So.
Right. Challenge them.
Plus,
right?
we allow them to help us come up with new recipes, and so they
Yeah.
get input.
Nice.
No.
So, so what's next? What's next for you guys? Where do you want this to go from here?
We talk about that all the time. I definitely, my brain trust, I call them, when we come in on our Monday meetings and we talk about moving forward. And outside of getting our east patio installed, which now I finally got the plans back from the architect, so we're moving forward with an east patio. We talk about, do we just want to open another production facility? Do we want to open a tap house someplace? Do we, what do we want to do, and where do we want to do it? So it's a great question that I don't have a great answer for you, because it's still, there's so many possibilities. We lean towards knowing production facilities, whereas they are great and have potential, they struggle a little bit. If you can brew, you have the capability of brewing a 4,000 barrel year, but you can only sell 1,000 barrels, you're struggling.
Yeah.
But if I bring customers to me with food, with entertainment, I can sell it over the bar so much, and it's the highest profit margin too, is to sell it over your own bar versus selling a keg out the door.
Right.
Yeah, and that question's changed over time, because back in 2011, as we were bringing up this concept, if you'd have asked that, it would be, hey, production brewery. There was 1,200 breweries in the country. Now there's over 4,000. So,
I think there's over 5
so
now.
So the
huge explosion.
52, right?
So the market's pretty saturated with volume. So that's an ongoing question that you continue to ask yourself. We are very happy with our growth right now. We're keeping up with it, and we're keeping within what we can afford, actually.
Yeah.
I think it is, well, I won't say the name. There is a brewery. It's a national brewery that is having a lot of trouble because they did a very big expansion, but sales is not hitting the expansion.
Sales is not.
So that's something that you want to be careful of, especially with the way the market is changing right now.
Yeah.
And for outside sales, for kind of the production sales part of it, we're competing with a lot of great Arizona breweries just for tap handles within the valley.
Oh,
there's a lot of great beer out there. So we compete with that, and a lot of these craft beer centric places do rotation taps. So you might be on 1 month and you don't see them again for 8 or 9 months, because they have so many other beers they want to get through their systems, So it's difficult. But then you can get, we have a great amber. The Chasing Tail Amber Ale is delicious. Yeah. And so I think it's definitely something that could go to market at your maybe not so craft centric bars, that place where you're just going to go have good Mexican food or good Chinese food, or, those places where you don't need to be craft centric to enjoy a craft beer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people are scared off. They think the word crafts, I swear, they think it means hoppy.
Right.
I think that's what they mentally think when they are not craft beer people. And they look at you and they're like, well, I had it. Well, he probably had an IPA or a pale ale. And they're like, who wants to drink that?
They always say, I don't like dark beers.
I don't like dark beers.
Right.
And it's like, but
like one of them is
but
dark.
I think that the Hop Snob was probably the lightest in color beer, because they misunderstand light and dark and what the beer. We had a black lager here.
Nice. I like the black
oh my
lagers.
gosh.
Yeah.
Dark as a porter, or dark as a stout, was the lightest drinkable, mild flavor, glorious, slightly toasted. It was great.
Yeah.
But you look at it and you're like, I'm not drinking that.
Right. Is that cold brew coffee?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the moment, and I got a lot of people who would come in, and I'm like, I'm going to bring you the Warhawk, because you're a Bud Light drinker, or Coors Light drinker. I'm going to bring you the Warhawk. I'm going to bring you the 5G Pool, because it's kind of blue moony. Mm-hmm. And they know these names, because of course they're on. And I'm going to bring you this dark as hell beer.
Yeah.
Just try it.
Yeah.
Just don't. Close your eyes and don't look at it. Just try it. And more often than not, that's the one they would buy.
Wow.
And but it was so good. It just looked like it was heavy and thick and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't. It was delicious. Neil had done a great job.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, before we wrap up, we have a guest here. Luis, do you want to say hi? This is Luis. So I worked with Luis we worked together at University of Phoenix. We did. And then we worked at with the Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals. Yeah. So he is now a beer ambassador.
He is.
What does that entail, Luis?
Well, it's beer ambassador, brand ambassador, promote the brand.
Okay.
Get out and sell the beer. The two that we
He takes care of Rosie.
And I do. I don't know if you saw Rosie, my mobile office out there.
No, I did not.
You'll have to take a look.
That's Rosie. We'll give you a tour of it.
Okay, nice.
Of her.
Yes, and Jacob and I are
I
very
surprised
fond.
him with a little added backdrop to his driving.
Yeah,
nice.
You'll see when we show you. I'll show you. Put a picture on your vlog. But yeah, that's what I do. Is I go around and promote the beer and get to work with these wonderful people and listen to their stories. That's why I came in today, because I love listening to their stories of how they got started and everything. So
Yeah.
and, the beer is great. I wasn't a huge promoter of amber beer until I tried like a Chase and Tail, and I was like, wow, this is a really good amber beer.
Right.
So now it's easy to sell for me, and
because he really does like it. He actually
really
drinks
do.
it when he's not drinking.
Right.
It's like he chooses to drink it.
300 plus C was definitely my favorite.
That's your favorite?
When you guys first
okay.
opened. Oh yeah, I mean, it was.
That's
I was like, wow.
That's our secondary.
Yeah, the second beer we sell.
The second beer we sell out.
Okay.
But yeah, either that one or the Chase and Tail are my go-to beers. So it's pretty easy to sell and go out and sell those beers. But yeah, that's what I do. That's get to go to events.
Yeah,
So,
I see you on Instagram all the time. I'm like, Luis is living my life. Like, my dream
yeah,
life.
yeah. No, I get a lot of that from friends and family. Like, what are you doing? It's like dream job. I'm like, oh yeah, that's they pay me for
And your
this.
boss is really awesome.
She is. Yeah, well, both of them are. So
Yeah.
everybody is. So yeah, it's a great gig, and everybody I work with is awesome. So
We really do have a phenomenal staff here. I have some King Louis, Memo, who's my GM. I have Neil, who's the head brewer, lead brewer. Just everybody that comes in and works. Really, I truly believe, love working here, and they believe in it.
Yeah.
It's not just a job. For our key employees, it is not just a job. Kelsey, the chef in the kitchen, she, works really hard at what she does. She has a great team that she's got back there. Neil finally got us, we're growing enough that I have 2 brewers back here now. So Neil's got an apprentice brewer back here with him. Poor little cellarman has to do all the grunt work, but I think he loves it. I think he loves the great grunt work.
Definitely a good time.
My GM's been with me since before we opened.
Okay.
So the longevity of my employees, I have so many employees that still work here who I hired prior to opening our doors, and they're still here.
Nice.
So it really does say a lot about the staff, and everybody comes together for a common goal, which is to make this place better. And we really do try. I mean, we're still a mom and pop place, but
yeah,
it's getting there. It really is getting there, and I appreciate all of them very, very much, and I could not do it without them for sure.
Yeah. Well, it starts with you guys too. You guys are awesome, and like that just trickles down.
It does. Yeah, it really does.
So okay, so where can people find you? Like, I mean, obviously, if you get on your phone, Google Maps.
Sure.
Like Saddle Mountain Brewery.
Out here in Goodyear. I think we are currently the furthest west brewery in the valley.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't think there's another one west of us. So we are, but we're right off Interstate 10, so it's not hard. If you're going to California, jump off on Estrella Parkway. We are 1 street south of the freeway. Yeah. You could definitely follow us on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter. Our website is, saddlemountainbrewing.com. Pretty much, come out and see us. You guys won't be disappointed.
I'm embarrassed it took me so long to get here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, shame on you.
I know.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed for you, Eric.
We on a side note, I do think the West Valley has a bad rap for beer.
Yeah.
I think we,
it's like a resurgence of like with you guys.
Because there's not very many. I mean, there's all of us up north. What are there, 7 or 8 breweries now? We have Richter now. I guess they're considered West Valley.
Yeah, Peoria Artisan.
Dubina, Peoria Artisan.
8-bit.
Freaking 8-bit. We're all West Valley beers. We produce some great beer.
Yeah.
Don't discount it just because we're not in downtown Phoenix,
Right. And it's not that far. Like that's what
it's really not. I am 20 minutes from the from the airport.
Yeah.
It's not that far.
No.
And our parking is way good comparatively. You get to some of these breweries and you're like, oh my God, I can't park to get in there. It's not their fault. It's just where they're located.
Yeah.
They have a lot of walking traffic. Good for them. I would love to have some of that. We don't, as we are, not close to a whole lot of things. But come out and give us a try. You will not be disappointed in the beer. You really won't. Neil does a great job. It's super clean. It's
great.
Good stuff. Yeah.
It is great. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys.
You're so
appreciate
welcome. We appreciate you coming out.
Yep. Thanks for listening to another episode. If you guys don't know just yet, I'm going to start releasing episodes every Monday. So stay tuned next Monday. We're going to hit up a brewery that's freaking great in Peoria who makes some freaking great beers. Little hints for you there. But always remember, stay awesome.